Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of New Beer Thursday. You know, over the past 12 months, we've had our fair share of ups and downs. We've had our fair share of good beer. We've had our fair share of great beer. We've met a lot of great people. And now, we'd like to meet you. We'd like to formally invite you to join us on November 4th, 2010 at Churchill's Pub and Grill in San Marcos, California for our first anniversary celebration. It will be epic. You should not miss it. See you there.
It's New Beer Thursday! Woo! And we are at Avery Brewing Company with this guy here, Adam Avery. How are you,
Hi.
sir? He's like,
well, that was a wake-up call.
Yeah. He's like, they've kidnapped me. Please send help.
Yeah, I had a beer dinner last night, and I was definitely overserved, so I'm a little slow today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we are in your barrel warehouse. Mm-hmm. And you're just chugging. That's water.
Yeah, it's water.
Say. It's actually vodka, but it's fine.
Water.
So we're in your barrel warehouse. This is awesome, actually.
Well, thanks.
I really like this place.
Yeah.
It's a great little setup, and you got an awesome tasting room over there. We'll probably get some shots of that as well. But yeah, this is incredible, and this is where all the amazing Avery beers come from.
This is it. Some of them come from stainless, but a lot of them are coming out of wood now.
Yeah.
So we've got a ton of projects going on. We've got over 200 oak barrels. We've got rum barrels. We've got bourbon barrels. We've got Zinfandel barrels. We've got Cab Sauv barrels, Chardonnay barrels, port barrels.
Wow.
Bunch of different stuff.
So does every aged Avery beer come out of this room?
No. Every barrel-aged beer comes out of this room.
Because you have beers like Beast, Mephistopheles,
Right.
Samael, which are
Very
best
ageable.
5 years out, and in my opinion, and those aren't barrel aged, obviously. But he's probably barrel aging all those things. I know he does Beast from the wood. I'm sure he does all of them.
Right.
But I love the range that Adam has here as far as barrels. A lot of people just concentrate maybe whiskey, maybe wine, maybe both. But he's going out there. I'm expecting to see tequila barrels next time I come.
We tried to find some. Couldn't get them.
I can help you with that.
Yeah. I prefer wine barrels. I mean, I just think that you get more nuances from them.
I think it's amazing.
But I think you also, I mean, whiskey barrels are cool too. And we've got a bunch of Stranahan whiskey barrels, which is a local distiller here, and it's a really cool whiskey.
You guys are coming up on your 18th year, is that right?
Correct.
And like I was telling Bill on the way up here, Avery has always been my go-to brewery first when I'm trying a new style of beer. Just because.
How much do I owe you for that comment?
I actually laughed.
Wait.
I go, so you're saying all these big beer, he knows he's going to like that style because of what you do to him, the way you extrapolate on the style.
Oh.
He knows.
Yeah, like Hog Heaven was my very first barley wine, and I loved it. Maharaja was my first really big IPA, and I loved it. And it was just, so it's like anytime I'm afraid of a new style, it's like I check to see if Avery's got it out, and then if they do, I'm going to grab it and try that first and kind of go from there.
Amazing beer range. I thought he made Dugana for me, but he told me he did it for him. So, but either way, we both can drink more glasses of.
But we're going to be doing Quinquepartite, you know, this beer.
How do you say it?
Quinquepartite.
Quinquepartite, okay. And this is the 5th of your barrel-aged series, starting off with Black Tot, and then you had the...
It was Brabant,
okay.
Sui Generis, Black Tot, Depuceleuse, and now Quinquepartite.
So Black Tot's the only easy name out of those. Do you want to talk about some of the harder names and how you came up with them?
Well, Brabant is a huge Flemish workhorse, and so it's a 100% Brett beer. So you get the idea, like horsey kind of flavor. So Brabant, Sui Generis means is Latin for unique or of its own kind, and that beer truly was, because there's several different beers blended together to create a quote sour-ish, you know, weird kind of beer. Black Tot is the day that I think it was like July 31st, 1971 or something, was the last day that the British naval
rum rations?
Yeah, the rum rations, their daily allotment was done, so that was called Black Tot Day. And since we aged that in rum barrels, we thought that was appropriate. Depuceleuse is a woman who deflowers a man. It's French.
In wood with cherries.
It's sour cherries.
Insert 13-year-old joke.
Exactly, sophomore. But it is also a 100% Brett beer.
Yeah.
And so there was no other bugs, you know, involved with it. So a lot of people are like, well, it's sour. And I'm like, yeah, it's because there's like 13 pounds of, you know, cherries per barrel. Right. So it's very sour because of that. But, you know.
Well, these have all been very phenomenal, and I think this has probably been my favorite.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Well, I mean, I
Cheers,
think
Joey.
it's just like with everything that we
Jelly
do here is, we always try to improve every single day, and none of our recipes are static. We're always looking at our raw materials. We're always trying to make a better beer, and so as we get better with our barrels, we've been doing this for 4 or 5 years with sours, and we've always very, very small batches, like 1 barrel, 1 barrel. And so we've been like kind of cultivating these different cultures. And so we have a bunch of different Lacto Brett strain cultures that we're trying to keep, apart from each other so that we can create different kinds of sourness and different kinds of,
awesome.
weird aromas. And so that's what we do, with these, and that's what we did with this is, basically 5 different barrels. I was like, hey guys, we need to do a blend. I want to do a really small batch, and mostly because my sui generis stores were kind of getting low, and I was like, need another sour beer. And so we went back here, and we had 5 barrels that we thought were spectacular, and we had 2 Cab Sauv barrels that was basically the same beer, and then we had a Chardonnay barrel, a port barrel, and a Zinfandel barrel. And they're all very different beers. They were all sour, quote, sour beers. One of them was 100% Brett beer. There was no lacto in it, but it added a real nice horsiness to it because the other 4 barrels didn't really have that effect, didn't have it enough. And so we wanted some of that Brett characteristic.
We can definitely tell this comes out of some wine barrels because you get a nice dry finish at the end, and it's got that nice little
Definitely.
bite in the back part of your palate.
Yeah,
that I
the
like
Cab
a lot.
Sauv barrels were first use, and they're from they were Plunk Jack barrels. So incredible vineyard, and love that wine.
Yeah, that's what I love about it. I mean, I've known Adam.
That guy's crazy, man.
It's like it's
I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything.
I don't know how long dozen years, 10 years, something like that. But he's all brewers, craft brewers always progress and advance. But I like how Adam really takes the time to dial in certain beers, like his big series, the Beast, Samael, Mephistopheles. When he first did those were big, hot monsters. They were great, but they were big. And he took the time, and as they progressed each vintage, I talked to him, and he'd go, "Yeah, this one you're going to like, Doc, because it's perfect. I got it dialed in, the Beast and stuff." And now they've come so far as being.
I wouldn't say dialed in. I mean, again, like I always think,
it's going to be work love for many years.
Pursuit of perfection, and with brewing, there's just so much to learn.
But you can see the advancement as it's gone for different vintages, how that comes out, how much more.
So what's the future for Avery? Are you planning any big beers that we get to look forward to, or?
Oh yeah, I mean, we're sitting in a bunch of them. So we've got about.
We're surrounded by amazingness.
Exactly. So 2 of those barrels of the Cab Sauv are part of a bigger program, and we don't have a name for it, but it's just strictly a sour, and it's going to be. I mean, if the 2 barrels that we used were like ahead of schedule. So Lacto, some barrels take effect faster, some take a little bit more time. But if it's what those 2 barrels are, eventually it's going to just be a great sour beer. Awesome. Just like over the top, sourness. We've got we just came out with a draft only. It's called Rumpkin, and we have about 70 pins or whatever that is. It's like 10 or 15 barrels that we made, and they came out of Gosling rum barrels. And it's a pumpkin beer, and so it's like a 10% pumpkin beer. But
awesome.
it's
pumpkin and rum. Oh my.
Yeah, it's. I think we're actually tapping. I think we're tapping one. Maybe today, I'm not sure.
Oh,
it's on the schedule.
Today, sir.
Yeah, but it's
Feels like consider that done.
What we like to do with the barrels is like we try to marry up the flavors that we know that are in the barrel with a beer, and so like Rumpkin just made a whole lot of sense.
That's awesome. I was just going to ask you too. When are you going to do another rum beer? Because I loved Black Tot. I still love Black Tot, and I was very excited that you did that. And I see the Gosling, so I was like, okay, what are we going to do next?
Rumpkin. It's going to be out. Hopefully, we'll
Now I'm kind of a geek, sci-fi, anime, whatever, and I noticed you have a beer called Voltron on tap here. Talk a little bit about that, because it's a phenomenal beer. It tastes amazing.
Well, one of my sales guys, our crew is pretty athletic, and they do a 24-hour like adventure race, and so it's in Colorado. It's like through the mountains. It's on the trail.
I will not be participating in this race.
So Ted, my national sales director, 2 years ago, did his run, and it was like an overnight. It was like middle of the night at 13,000 feet. He got back in the van. He was so wiped out that he was like, "Hey, you remember that episode of Voltron when he didn't want to run anymore?" And the guy's like, he's totally out of it. So his nickname became Voltron, obviously.
That's
so
awesome.
we made
I do
this.
remember that episode actually.
So we made this blend, and it happened to have another one that was like 5 barrels, 5 different things coming together, and so and Voltron, I guess, is made up, has 5 parts, correct?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's where it came from.
That's epic.
that's cool.
That
Yeah.
is really that's
That's
phenomenal.
very unfortunate that I know that about Ted now.
right.
Don't hate on the geeks, Bill.
Right.
Don't hate on the
I'm
geeks.
not. I'm
We
just
have fun
gonna
with our
play
beer names.
Ted.
It's like.
Yes.
I think it's it's another way to express who we are as
Right.
a brewery, and just not like
awesome.
using some lame names. I mean, like to come up with like things like Depuceleuse or to use Latin. We're not highfalutin by any means, but it's funny. Like there's a story behind it.
Right, and it makes people go out and Google the name to figure
Yeah, that's
out what
now
it
one of
is.
my favorite names. Now that I know the story, I'm like,
Exactly.
whoa,
Although
it's
a
way
beer
better.
I'm very excited has a very basic name, and everybody thinks of me as an extreme beer guy across the beer scene. But tell us about your new beer, your Pilsner.
Oh,
I'm very excited about that.
I'm super excited about it. That's all I've been drinking since January. So it took us about 5 brews to dial in. And you think, wow, why does it take so hard? Why is it so hard to make a light beer like that? And it really is because like what I wanted to do was, as I get older, and it's hard to drink IPAs or double IPAs or things that are 6, 7, 8, 10, 12% all night. And I also think that there's going to be, as I'm aging, as a lot of the first generation people are aging, there's going to be a need for like small extreme beers.
Right.
And sours are a great example. These obviously, what we're doing, these are 10%, so they're kind of
It's a bigger sour, yeah.
Yeah, but 5% sour beers are going to become popular. So
hot and raw.
I wanted to make a beer that I could drink basically all night,
Right.
wake up the next day and feel good. And so I knew I wanted to do something sub 5%, but I also have a hop head. I love hops, and so we made a beer with 40. It's got 42 IBUs. It's 4.7% alcohol and a ton of aroma hops, Harrisbrucker. And so it's very different than our other beers because people ask me, well, what does Harrisbrucker smell like? And I'm like, it smells like hops. It's like they're not citrusy, they're not earthy. They're you
They're
just
piney.
smell them, you just like. Well, that just smells good, it smells like hops, and it's cool, And so, and Joe is my grandfather. He taught me how to drink, amongst other things.
Nice.
I've always thought that
tribute
like
beer.
a good Pilsner or a good lager that comes out, because I've met a couple of small breweries, and they're like, oh, all we make is this like Pilsner, and I've tasted it, I'm like, oh, it's phenomenal. And that tells me like you are a good brewer if you can make a good Pilsner, because that's such a hard beer to mask any mistakes in. Any mistakes you make brewing that beer is going to come out in it. Versus like a big, huge Imperial Russian Stout where it can be oxidized, it can be whatever, and you're going to be able to hide it via barrel aging or whatever. And so I think it really shows the true mettle of a brewer when they can do a good Pilsner and a good lager.
Some people may not like this Pilsner though, because it is, even Tommy Arthur last night said that Pilsner's too bitter.
Because it's not stylistically.
What does
spot on.
Tommy know? Just
But
kidding, Tommy.
It's not
Very
stylistically
little.
spot on, but you know what? That's not what Adam does. All his beers are not stylistically spot on.
And I don't think
Ellie's
craft
Brown's
beer is
great
about
brown
that.
ale. Well, it's interesting, and I think there has been a big movement. People say the next thing coming up is going to be session beers. I think session beers are already here. A lot of brewers that I respect are doing great session beers, and they're out there. People just need to find them and try the different ones. But you are right about making a great Pilsner. It's tough because you don't have all the different notes from the different grains, the different things, the barrels, adjuncts, good adjuncts that you put into things.
Right.
So Pilsner's just a clean, crisp beer. So, I mean, it's pretty much laying it all out there for you.
It's all about the yeast, really. I mean,
So I don't think
find
we
the
actually
yeast
said
that
the
you
name.
like.
It's the American Joe Pilsner. Is that what it's called?
Joe's Premium American Pilsner.
Oh, right
It's a
on.
mouthful, but
Well, so's the beer. Oh, we know you're having a party
That is
here today, though,
making me
and so we're not going to keep you for too much longer. So, but we want to thank you for your time, and GABF is awesome, and hey, this is my first visit for Avery. So
yeah, thanks
this
for the
was
kind
amazing.
words, guys. We
And for
appreciate
all the
it.
great
Amazing
beers
place.
that you do and have
Yeah,
done all
for
these
sure.
years. Just
And
amazing.
for packing out 4 of these for us, because that is epic in and of itself. So
Yeah, I mean,
you.
it's a small batch, It's like 97 cases, and as it says here, 60 cases shared, 37 hoarded. This is part of the hoard.
right on.
Yeah, it's for
Wow.
friends and family.
Yeah, friends and family. We're family.
Cheers.
I'm gonna hug him later.
Cheers.
So,
Stay safe and drink beer.